Starting.
Early actions.
Howard Davis.
Tahir Hanif, Legal Advisor.
Councillor Eric Firth.
Jenny Bryce-Chan, Governance Officer.
Thank you. Can I just mention before we start going into the hearing proper, you've all got a microphone in front of you. To activate it, you press the little thing under the yellow button when you speak, just so everyone can hear you, and the world at large can also hear you. Thank you. As I said, the meeting itself is webcast, and there is a formal agenda which has been issued to everyone. I think we all understand how that works. Thank you. So I've got some formalities to go through before we actually start this hearing. Item 1 on the agenda, a site visit to Dunfer Bridge, which was attended. Item 2, membership of the panel. We've already introduced ourselves, but we'll do so again. Councillor Paula Davis, Councillor Archard and myself. Minutes of the previous meeting, as none of the members of the panel was here except myself, Councillor Bamford has moved it, and I will second that as a true record of the meeting. Item 4, declarations of interest. Colleagues?
None.
And none from me. Admission of the public. Most of the items will take place in public, but there may be, we may have to go in private session for some of the agenda. Deputations and petitions.
None received, Chair.
Public questions.
Again, none received.
So we go on to item 8, application for the review of the PRA 0399 1014 bar 10 to 14 Dumford Road, Home Firth, HD92 DP, to consider the licensing review. I've mentioned exclusion of the public earlier, so we'll go on to the application. Do I have to read this now, or do I do that later?
Do that later, but just
Right.
when they speak to introduce themselves.
Okay. Right. Down to you. I think it's...
No,
oh, sorry.
licensing.
Licensed officer.
Thank you, Chair. My name's Steve Mycroft. I'm a licensing officer for Kirklees Council. On the 8th of January 2025, West Yorkshire Police made an application for the review of premises licence PRA 0399 1014 bar under Section 51 of the Licensing Act 2003. The applicant believes that the following licensing objectives are not being met: prevention of crime and disorder, public safety and prevention of public nuisance. Over the last 18 months, West Yorkshire Police have stated they have received a number of reported incidents at or outside of 1014 bar, ranging from road traffic incidents, fights including individuals and large groups, serious assaults and a Section 18 wounding. All calls and incidents occurred between midnight and 3 a.m. West Yorkshire Police have provided 2 exhibits, Exhibit KJS1, which is CCTV footage, and Exhibit KJS2, which is an action plan agreed with the designated premises supervisor and the licensee of 1014 bar. A local resident has made a statement to West Yorkshire Police and has provided a timeline of incidents at and outside of 1014 bar, which includes CCTV footage. Exhibits GW1 to 15, these will be shown at the hearing in private session under exemption clauses 2 and 7 by virtue of paragraphs 1 of Part 1 of Schedule 12A of the Local Government Act 1972 and by virtue of Regulation 21(1)A of the Local Authorities Executive Arrangements Access to Information, England Regulations 2000, and also Section 14(2) of the Licensing Act 2003, Hearings Regulations 2005. The CCTV contains information which is likely to reveal the identity of an individual and information relating to any action or to be taken in connection with the prevention, investigation or prosecution of a crime. The public interest in maintaining the exemption outweighs the public interest in disclosing the information and providing greater openness in the Council's decision making. Exhibit KJS2 is attached to the review report. The report statement and exhibit can be found at Appendix A. There has been one representation submitted by Planning Services as a responsible authority following being served with a review application. This representation provides details of the planning permission relating to the premises, whereby they provide details of the planning conditions that relate to the public nuisance licensing objective. The representation provides no comments regarding the grounds for the application for the review. The representation can be found at Appendix B. There have been 5 representations submitted in support of 1014 Bar. These are 3 from local businesses, 1 from an employee of 1014 Bar and 1 from a local councillor. These can be found at Appendix C. There have been 2 representations submitted in support of West Yorkshire Police's review application. These are 1 from a local resident and 1 from a local councillor. They can be found at Appendix D. A copy of the premises licence, PRA 0399, can also be found at Appendix E. During the 28-day consultation period, the licensing authority were notified that the blue notice placed inside the premises facing the road had been removed. Following this, another notice was placed on the outside of the window of the premises, and an additional notice was also placed on the lamppost outside the main door of the premises. Following this, it was reported that the notice on the window had been moved and the notice placed on the lamppost was rotated to make it difficult for members of the public to read them. Licensing officers returned a second time to ensure that the notices were visible, and that an email was sent to the licence holder informing him that the licensing service were aware of the actions and requested that he does not touch the notices going forward. Members also need to consider the statutory guidance issued by the Secretary of State under Section 182 of the Licensing Act 2003. As representations relate to 3 of the licensing objectives, members' attention is drawn to this guidance. The relevant parts may be found at Appendix F. When determining the application, members, having regard to any representations, may take such steps as they consider it appropriate for the promotion of the licensing objectives. These steps are: modify the conditions of the premises licence, which includes adding new conditions or any alteration or omission of an existing condition; exclude a licensable activity from the scope of the licence; remove the licensing designated premises supervisor; and suspend the licence for a period not exceeding 3 months, or revoke the licence, or the licence can remain as it is. Findings on any issue of fact should be on the balance of probability. In arriving at a decision, members must have regard to the relevant provisions of the statutory guidance and the licensing policy statement and provide reasons for their decision. Members are therefore requested to determine the application. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any questions to the licensing officer?
Yeah, just it's a number of incidents. Can we be clear as to how many incidents?
Put his mic.
Can you put your microphone down so that we can all hear you?
Can we be clear as to how many incidents we're talking of here? Because it does say a number of incidents, and it's just important to note how many incidents.
Mine's an overview of the officer's report. That'll be covered in West Yorkshire Police's report when she reads it out. Thank you.
Are there any questions from your team to the licensing officer?
No, thank you.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Brooke, did you indicate?
Yes, please. Question for the licensing officer. You mentioned in your statement there that the signage outside 1014 had been moved, having first been placed there. Is there some direct link of evidence between the movement of the sign and the property themselves, please?
Yes, there is. We've been provided CCTV footage of that. The first time a man turned up in a white van, the first time it was placed on the inside by myself. I spoke to, I think, the lady at the back who was wearing a pedal jacket. She was in the bar at the time, and I gave instructions and asked them not to remove it till the 10th of February. And they said it wasn't anything to do with them at the time. And then the next day it was gone. We also had licensing officers out that Friday night who did a check for me, and they said it wasn't there. So on the Monday when I was next available, I went back out there and I placed one on the outside of the window, and then I put one on the lamppost. In the CCTV footage that was shown, a guy in a white van turned up, removed it from the outside of the window, and then I think it was placed later on the inside. And then I observed Mr. Nigel Turner come out of the bar and physically move the one on the lamppost to face it towards the wall, so it was unreadable by members of the public should they be walking past.
Yeah, appreciate that one there. Where did you get the CCTV from, please?
It was provided by Mr. Gavin Weaver.
Thank you.
Could I just say that I moved the one from the outside to the inside? That was me in the white van. I was doing that because I was concerned about the weather conditions outside and whether it would stay on. I know people outside the building, you know, could rip things off or move things. So it was obviously safer inside the building. So obviously that white van moving that inside, it was just making it. It was in exactly the same position that you placed it, but just inside the building. And I did that directly after I took it from the outside to the inside.
Forgive me, I did omit to ask that when you do speak, please introduce yourself. And so,
My name's Jamie Dawson, the manager at 1014.
thank you.
Good morning. My name. Oh, yeah, I appear on behalf of the applicant. Is it on? Oh, I don't need to hold it. Oh, that's really helpful. Thank you. I appear on behalf of the Chief Constable of West Yorkshire Police, the responsible authority making this application. I'm assisted by Officer Swift, and behind us is Mr. Weaver, who is a resident of Holmfirth and has assisted by providing a statement that I believe the panel will consider this morning. If I can first address the licensing officer's question as to the number of incidents in reference. To assist the panel, you will have received a 73-page bundle of documents, and in that, from pages 12 and 13, is the application proper. That sets out the various incidents and questions, and by my calculation includes 12 incidents that have taken place between January and December 2024. I understand that the logs that have been included in the application is a sample of the variety of complaints that may have been received over the course of that year, and it will be in due course the applicant's invitation that on the balance of probabilities you have sufficient incidents to take into account when deciding whether to modify the license conditions in the premise license owned by 1014. If I take a step back and deal with the application itself, the applicant is seeking to have the license of 1014 modified in two ways. Currently, on Fridays and Saturdays, the premises have license to operate until 2 a.m., meaning they can serve alcohol till 2 a.m. and then they close the premises at approximately 3 a.m. This timing extends to Good Friday, Christmas Day, and New Year's Eve as well. The application is for the license conditions to be modified so that the service or the serving of alcohol terminates at 11 p.m. and for the premises to close at 12 a.m. This would apply on Friday and Saturday as well as those 3 bank holidays that I identified a moment ago. In brief, the reason why this application is being made is because the 3 license conditions that have been identified by Mr. Mycroft a moment ago are deemed to have been breached due to the overspill of patrons from 1014 once we go past 3 a.m. on the street, where there has been an increase in incidents of disorder, and that means that you often see patrons either arguing or because they exist in a large crowd, there is an increase of noise that residents around the area have to endure. And across those 12 incidents, for example, that have been referenced in the application, 10 of those involve incidents, 8 involve incidents of assaults, and often requiring the police presence to assist with those issues. The panel in a moment will also consider the statement from Mr. Weaver at page 15 in the bundle, and Mr. Weaver helpfully has set out 27 incidents himself by his own observations. And those 27 incidents include on a number of days at multiple different times of the evening. And so it is necessary, therefore, the applicant will submit that those license conditions, the timings be drawn back so that patrons can be ushered to leave at a more reasonable time of the evening, and that the peace and quiet of surrounding residents are not interrupted by the behaviors of those individuals. It's entirely reasonable to accept that, yes, 1014 may not be individually responsible for the behaviors of these individuals, but because they've spent their evening at these premises consuming alcohol, there is a link between their presence at the premises and how they behave once they are on the street, once they have left the premises. I may now turn to Officer Swift to read out the statement that she has provided at page 12 and 13 so that it can be read into the panel's record. And now, but before we do that, I do seek guidance from the panel as to one issue that has been raised by the respondent, in this case, Mr. Turner, who is the license holder for 1014. There is a concern that has been raised over the reliance placed on closed-circuit television footage obtained that we can see describes the behavior or shows the behavior of the patrons there. Now, I can address the panel on that matter at this stage, but if the panel wishes to hear from me on that matter in due course, I can park that until after we hear from Officer Swift. I'm entirely in the panel's hands to assist with that issue that has been raised. Certainly, I'm most grateful. If I can then turn to Officer Swift. Thank you.
Yes, I'm PC 4346, Katie Swift, Licensing Officer for Kirklees. 1014 is a licensed premises in Perth. It offers a steakhouse grill on the first floor restaurant, ground floor, bars and cocktails, basement, bar designed for music, dance with live DJs every Friday and Saturday. The alcohol licence has been in place since the 20th of March 1972. It was last varied on the 30th of January 2019. On this date, Mr. Nigel Turner became the premise licence holder and the designated premise supervisor. The current licensing hours are as follows: Sunday to Thursday, 10 a.m. till 30 minutes past midnight. Friday to Saturday, 10 a.m. till 2 a.m. Good Friday, 12 noon till 2 a.m. Christmas Day, 12 noon till midnight. New Year's Eve, 11 a.m. till 5 a.m. Prior to this, the licensing hours were Monday to Saturday, 10 till midnight, Sunday, 12 till 11:30 p.m, Good Friday, 10 till 11:30 p.m, New Year's Eve, 10 till 10 a.m. the following morning, and Christmas Day, 12 noon till 11:30 p.m. This review has been called due to the breach of the following licensing objectives: the prevention of crime and disorder, public safety, the protection of people from harm. The ground floor and basement of 1014 is trading as a nightclub on a Saturday and Sunday morning. In the past 18 months, 2 males have been seriously injured in 2 road traffic collisions in the vicinity of 1014 in the early hours of the morning. Excuse me. In both cases, the injured persons had been inside 1014 prior to being involved in the road traffic collision outside. The first road traffic collision was on the 24th of June 2023 and is covered in the statement and CCTV of Mr. Gavin Weaver. The second road traffic collision was in fact a Section 18 assault. This occurred on Dunford Road on the 7th of December 2024, where 2 customers of 1014 became involved in the disorder outside. At the end of the altercation, one of the males throws a cone at the vehicle the other male has just got into. This vehicle then mounted the pavement and drove at the male, knocking him off his feet, causing a serious injury. CCTV footage of this incident can be produced as Exhibit KJS1. 1014 is on an action plan. This was put in place on the 17th of July 2024 to problem solve the disorder occurring on Dunford Road between 1 a.m. and 3 a.m. on a Friday and Saturday morning. A local resident who has provided a statement first reported noise and disorder to Kirklees licensing in February 2024. The statement of Gavin Weaver documents the noise and disorder he and his family have had to endure. Under the current licence, this venue can sell alcohol till 2 a.m. on a Saturday and Sunday. 1014 is attracting high numbers of customers between 12 and 2 a.m. and can open until 5 on New Year's Day. The action plan for the venue has not stopped the complaints or disorder. If the alcohol licence terminated at 11 with condition for the venue to be closed at midnight, West Yorkshire Police believe the disorder and noise complaints would cease. So the statement and CCTV provided by Gavin Weaver, who lives in the vicinity of 1014, shows the level of noise and disorder that occurs outside on an almost weekly basis. Mr. Weaver and his family since June 2022 have had to endure fights, disorder, shouting and screaming on a weekend on an almost weekly basis. His wife administered first aid at the road traffic collision on the 24th of June 2023, where an intoxicated customer from 1014 was run over and injured by a vehicle driving up Dunford Road. His children have endured broken nights while studying for their GCSEs. The DPS Nigel Turner was requested to sign and agree to an action plan by Kirklees Police Licensing. This was after a meeting held at Industry Security on the 27th of March 24. Present were two managers from Industry Security, Bal Douale and Richard Kamazuli, Jamie Dawson and Jane Coxhead, managers from 1014, myself and Richard Woodhead, a licensing officer from Kirklees Police. A further meeting was requested by Nigel Turner to discuss the drawn-up action plan. At this meeting, he stated he did not want to pay for street marshals, but agreed to employ one extra door staff from 1 till 3. At this meeting, he requested a soft close to be trialled so customers could leave in smaller groups. The signed action plan is attached to the file. It was signed by Nigel Turner on the 16th of July 24. The venue did adhere to the action plan apart from SIA door staff do not wear body cameras. Nigel Turner had to be chased up to return the signed action plan, so the review date was invalid at the point of signing. The action plan is Exhibit KJS2. I'll just go through the calls to the police regarding 1014 since the 1st of January 2024. So when I say log, it means a phone call to the police. So log 65 of the 10th of February 2024 at 1:03 a.m. Ambulance reporting an assault. Male assaulted in the toilet, teeth gone through bottom lip. Bottom lip open, serious bleeding. It might sound as though I'm a bit disjointed, but this is how it's been typed on the log. So log 201, 17th of February 24 at 2:28 a.m. Caller reporting large fight, bottles mentioned, approximately 20 to 30 people. On police arrival, multiple groups of intoxicated people were in the street. No offences disclosed, no offences recorded. Log 147 of the 30th of March 24, 2:22 hours, call reporting approximately 100 people outside 1014, a number of them are fighting. There has been a disturbance since 0045 hours. They're in the middle of the road. No offences disclosed on police arrival, people dispersed into taxis. There's an occurrence number, so this is an occurrence that's been recorded. The 26th of August 24 at 1:19, and it was an assault that was recorded. Victim and suspect are strangers. Victim has been in bar when female has attacked her and her friend in toilet. The suspect has grabbed friend by the hair, hitting her head on the wall, and grabbed the victim. The victim has no injuries. Investigation complete. No suspect identified. Another occurrence, 26th of August 24 at 1:24, assault by beating. Suspect is a door supervisor at 10:14. Suspect is grabbed by the victim by the arm to eject her out of the bar. Whilst doing this, the suspect has said to the victim, "I dare you to hit me, you big fat ugly, CUNT." Investigation complete. No suspect identified. Log 65 of 14 September 24 at 5 to 1 in the morning. Caller reporting ongoing fight outside 10:14. Caller said someone said they were going to shank someone, but no knife was seen. There are some bouncers trying to break it up. A male was seen with facial injuries. Group ran towards the bus station. Approximately 4 males fighting. On police arrival, the injured male would not disclose what had occurred and how he'd received his injuries. Log 0229 of the 21st of September 24, 02:35 hours. Caller reporting that they had been assaulted by the bouncer. They were waiting for a taxi after leaving the club. He just came over and pushed me in the jaw. Was knocked to the floor. Another occurrence on the 17th of November 24 at 2:50 a.m. assault by beating. The victim is door supervisor. Known suspects have started to become aggressive towards victim and assaulted him, causing a bruise to his left table. And suspect have then left the venue. The investigation was completed with no suspect identified. Log 210 of the 1st of December at 2:29 hours. Call reporting approximately 50 males and females fighting in the street. They have come out of 10:14. They are shouting and carrying on. The police arrived. There were lots of people in the vicinity of 10:14. They were dispersed into taxis. No offences disclosed. Log 82 of the 7th of December at 00:53 hours. Ongoing fight, up to 6 people involved. It was recorded as a Section 18 wounding. Victim and suspect engaged in a fight in the street on Dunford Road after exiting 10:14. The suspect enters a motor vehicle and drives this into victim, causing the victim to be seriously injured. Suspect is remanded in prison for this offence. So you'll be seeing CCTV footage of that shortly. Log 1208 of the 8th of December at 00:46 hours. Call reporting people outside 10:14 fighting again. Males left in a taxi before police arrive. Log 85 of the 25th of the 12th, 24 at 1:36 a.m. Call reporting around 40 to 50 people, both on the pavement and road, singing and chanting. It has been going on for around half an hour. It is causing a nuisance. They are half in the road, half in the pavement. There were no units available. CCTV confirmed a number of people were outside the venue and would monitor. Now 25th of 12th, Christmas Day morning. As you will see, all the above calls have been between midnight and 3 a.m. No calls were made to the police about this venue outside these hours. The public nuisance after midnight that must be tolerated by persons who live in the vicinity of the venue is unacceptable. Customers before entering or after leaving, standing or walking Dunford Road, often in drink between midnight and 3 a.m, are not only putting themselves in danger, usually when intoxicated, but also the drivers of vehicles that are using Dunford Road. The CCTV footage provided by Gavin Weaver shows the panel exactly what is taking place after midnight in Home Firth. No person wants this behaviour outside their home address weekend after weekend. The venue cannot manage the drunken behaviour of their customers. If the panel does not reduce the alcohol licence to a more reasonable hour, then further serious injuries are inevitable. That's the end of my report. Thank you.
I don't have any questions, Chair.
Have you any questions?
Thank you, Chair. Just a couple, please. Thank you. My name's Joe Harvey. I'm a solicitor from Poppleston and I'm representing Nigel Turner, the premises licence holder. Thank you. PC Swift, it's right to say that the action plan was entered into in July of 24. Is that correct?
That's correct. It was talked about in March, but then Nigel Turner didn't return the signed one till July.
And you continued to see him or one of his colleagues at meetings at Pub Watch every month up until, well, recently?
There is a meeting. I wouldn't say it's monthly, I'd say it's more 6 weekly. But I have seen him there, yes.
And it's fair to say that in those intervening meetings, there has been no suggestion from you that the action plan was not working?
Not at what you call in the Pub Watch, it's actually called the Nighttime Economy Meeting for Home Firth. Not at that forum, because that's not the forum to discuss individual premises.
But is it right that in between the entering into of the action plan and the instigation of the review, there had been no meeting or conversation between you and Nigel or one of his colleagues where you indicated that the action plan was not working?
No, we did have a meeting with the owner of the Shoulder of Mutton as well, because what happened is the customers of 1014 started to congregate in their new beer garden that had like a roof, and it was highlighted to me again that the noise and disorder had started, so we did have a meeting. I can find the date of that if you like. I think it was October, and where we had the area manager of the Shoulder of Mutton and myself at a meeting to discuss the issues of the customers of 1014 coming out into the street and using their beer garden in a disorderly manner that they weren't happy with.
But there was no issues raised in relation to anything else regarding the action plan?
When I requested that meeting, the email did say the incidents have continued or have started again on the road outside 1014.
Thank you. I don't have any further questions, Chair. Thank you.
Wendy, before you come back, can I just ask, you mentioned the Shoulder of Mutton. What time does that close?
Yes, it used to close later, 1 o'clock, but it's been taken over. It's under new management since, I'd say, approximately end of August, and they have a licence till 1 o'clock, but they choose to do last orders at 11 and close at 12.
Panel, during the course, I do apologize.
To ask these incidents that took place. Were they directly outside the bar or further up the street, lower down into the town?
So it may assist if at this stage the panel consider the closed circuit television footage, because that would answer the panel's questions as to the location of the premises, how close it is to residential properties, and where the disorder is said to take place on the street. I know Officer Swift made reference to it in her statement, so it could follow from that this is the stage when the session breaks into a private session to consider that evidence.
We will look at those, but a little later in the
Certainly.
meetings. Thank you. We will now do more questions. We will move down to the executive.
Question.
Councillor Brooke?
Yeah, thank
I've got a list.
There's Mr. Weaver as well. Hasn't done his.
Not at the moment, no. No, thank you.
Councillor Brooke?
Thank you for that one. In respect of, obviously, the incidents which took place at 1014, now we're discussing, from what you said there, 12 incidents in a period of 12 months. which is a protracted length of time. I have a lot of sympathy for the police. I served for 20 years with the police from 1997. However, that doesn't seem to be an awful lot to myself. I've taken a quick look on the internet, and there's been a number of incidents, of serious incidents in Holmfirth as well, which it's not relevant to this case specifically, but if you were to give it a reflection across Holmfirth, Holmfirth isn't simply peaceable at all hours, and it's just not these times of day. On the 16th of February 2024, there was a discharge of a firearm in Holmfirth by rival gang people, and that was, again, that was at 10 to 10 at night. That time at night there, people were dining and enjoying the time with their families. It wasn't an isolated time of night. Those were people that came from and into Holmfirth to do it on there. On the 20th of May at the Elephant and Castle, there was a serious facial injury involving patrons from that public house there, which led to appeal by the police, where somebody had a Section 18 assault. Now, I believe that there was only, and this is a question for PC Swift, I believe that there was only one assault directly within the premises, according to 1014, which was a Section 18 assault. Can you confirm that? Yeah, please. If you could just confirm that there was only one assault within the premises.
No, that's not correct, because where I've given an occurrence number, that's an assault as well. So like the 17th, the 11th, assault by beating. Oh, right, so that's on, well, it's on page 5 of my report. So if you look through my report and where I've sort of said calls to the police, where there's a number starting with 1324, that's in the old days that was a crime reference number, now it's the occurrence number. That's where incidents have been recorded. So on the 26th of August, that's an assault. On the 20th, yeah, so there's 2 assaults on that day. Let's have a look now. 17th to 11, assault.
Sorry, are those within the premises?
Directly outside.
So not
but
within?
The assault, yeah. I mean, the one on the 26th of August is inside because it's in the toilets. Yeah, and then the door supervisor, that's obviously as they're being ejected. So, and then the one on the 17th, 11, it's the supervisor, so that's in the premises. The issue the police are finding is when they get there, people are in drink, they're not in a fit state to give an account, and then the next morning, when we contact them to get a full account, they can't remember it, don't want to report it. So that's why few things are logged but not recorded because they were in drink and they can't really remember it.
I was just interested in the overall reflection of the crime and nightlife crime, or the nighttime economy crime, which happened in the entirety of Holmfirth. I think subjectively to draw attention to one premises perhaps is a little bit misleading. Thank you.
The other premises aren't looking. We're not looking at their licences, Councillor.
And I can answer that because obviously this is what the police are having to deal with now. Drinking has changed recently since COVID. The small towns such as Holmfirth, Linley, Murfield are having this problem of excessive drinking in residential areas, and the police are having to deal with that now. Yes, other bars we do have concerns, but they've been spoken to, they've been dealt with, but they're not having the consistent problems, the consistent disorder you would expect in a premise licence where people drink the odd incident because alcohol fuels that. But as you will see from the CCTV coming up, it's the disorder from the excessive drinking at 10:14 and the preloading that they've all done, but it's spilling out at 10:14 that is my real concern.
Thank you, Mrs. Swift. I've got on my list Nigel Turner, represented by Joe Harvey.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, councillors. Good morning. I don't think anything that I am going to say to you is going to come as a surprise, because you will have read with care my submissions. So you know what I'm going to say, but I'm going to say it anyway, because I'm here, and that's my job. It's really disappointing to hear the kind of accusations levied against the premises that have been levied. You will know, I feel a bit of a cheat actually. I'm from Derbyshire, and I've come to the great county of West Yorkshire to talk to you about your local area, which you know far better than me. But anyone who doesn't know Holmfirth will assume that may assume that it's a sleepy, rural West Yorkshire village with not much going on. And maybe that's what Mr. Weaver thought when he was moving in, but it's not. It's a bustling, thriving town with much to offer, especially in the late night economy. And the premises currently trading as 1014 has been trading since the 70s. It's been trading for longer than I've been alive, I'm very pleased to say. And it is interesting to have a look at where the complaints have come from. Because when you consider that a premises has been trading since the 70s, and you have an incident, or you have incidents of complaints which seem to come from a singular source, which by and large are unsupported by any of the other neighbours who surround and flank the premises, it does raise the question as to where there is actually an issue. And if I might put it as bluntly as this, Chair, that the application for the review on the grounds of noise issues is unsupported by the Environmental Health Officer. Your expert on issues of noise complaints hasn't supported this review. The guidance tells you that that's the source of your expertise and guidance on noise complaints. They don't support this review. And there has only been complaints from a single source who moved to the location post-COVID, arguably not appreciating the nature of the town and what the town has to offer, not understanding what happens outside, happens with a late night premises nearby. That is the position that we are in. Now, I know that this subcommittee will be sensitive and will recognise that a premises with such a long trading history as that, it would be extraordinary to restrict the licence in such a way, effectively on the word of a single complainant. And whilst the police seem to be suggesting that this measure is proportionate, the reality is it amounts to the revocation of the licence, because the premises predominantly, the bulk of its revenue derives from its trading in the evening, and so to curtail its main operating hours has the same effect of a revocation. What the police are asking you for is revocation of the licence by a different name. They are trying to suggest that it is reasonable and proportionate to curtail the hours until 11 o'clock. Of course, there can't possibly be any noise complaints if we close the premises. I tell you what, let's shut the road as well whilst we're at it. You know, that'll really sort of, in fact, why don't we just close the town? Because that seems perfectly proportionate. Of course it's not. And the action that you are being asked to take by the police is on the word of a single complainant who moved into the premises post-COVID when the world was returning to normal, and has either been lied to or misled by, in fact, no, I'll rephrase that, might have been misled or lied to by the seller, as to whether there were any noise issues, or more realistically and more likely, there aren't any noise issues, because if there were, you'd expect every other resident to be putting in a complaint as well. That hasn't happened. So let's, with respect to the police's argument, let's have some grounding in reality with this application. You have a premises with a long trading history, a complete absence of supporting complaints from anybody else, and completely unsupported by your expert on crime, on statutory nuisance. In relation to issues of crime and disorder, it is absolutely right that a premises cannot be held responsible for the actions of customers away from their premises. Thank you, Chair. But despite that, we have a recommendation to put before you, which we say goes a long way to actually working towards achieving some greater degree of control of customers when they leave the premises. Now, the subcommittee has yet to decide whether or not the CCTV is going to be an issue. I think I have to address that now, if that is in your legal advisor's view. Yes. The CCTV, the evidence predominantly comes from Mr. Weaver. Mr. Weaver is a resident of the streets across the road. By our reckoning, it's about 25 metres away from the premises. I think you'll know the location, and you'll know that the streets, the houses that Mr. Weaver live in, they're on a hill and going up the hill. So not only is there a 25-metre distance, there's also an elevation going up, which, if I remember my Pythagoras theory correct, we could probably work out roughly what that is, but we don't need to. He has installed CCTV cameras on his property. I saw them this morning when I visited the premises. One of those cameras is pointing directly at 1014. Just let that sink in, that a private resident is making covert recordings of somebody else's property. Mr. Mycroft, in his report, and indeed in his address to you this morning, pointed out that the very reason why this subcommittee might want to go into a private meeting is because the CCTV could identify somebody. That is why the CCTV is unlawful. Because it does not, you've seen in my submissions, my argument, it does not comply with the law as far as the CCTV is concerned. And whilst this is not a court and the rules of evidence are different here, this subcommittee will still want to do what is right, and will still want to follow the principles of natural justice and to do what is right. And by sanctioning the covert recording of a business, long-term recording, we've got no idea when these cameras are put up, because Mr. Weaver hasn't said. There's no notices up saying it's recording. But to sanction the covert recording of people going about their lawful business on a day-to-day basis is wrong. It is unlawful. And to say that they can rely on this evidence and it is fair for them to do so, I would strongly submit that that is, again, is also not, that is not fair. If you do decide to watch the footage, and I think I'm right in understanding the footage hasn't been seen by the subcommittee yet. When you do see the footage, if you do see the footage, it is abundantly clear that the volume of the footage has been manipulated. Now, whether that is done maliciously to try and prove a point to you, I don't know. But as a result of that, and the concerns that I have, and before I was a licensing solicitor, I was a criminal practitioner, and I've seen a lot of CCTV. So when I saw this, I was immediately concerned about what was going on with the audio. So I instructed an expert, and he was concerned about the quality of the audio as well. And you've seen his report. And the point of the matter is, and this really goes, I think, emphasises the significance of why the environmental health officer is not involved, is that where there are genuine noise concerns, the proper tests and proper investigation has to be completed so that this subcommittee has reliable, accurate evidence as to the extent of the noise. And Mr. Hurst, our expert in viewing it, has essentially concluded that from the audio of these videos, no reliable conclusion can be reached from watching them. So if you have footage which has been unlawfully obtained and from which no reliable conclusion can be reached, again, with respect, Chair, following the rules of natural justice, how can it be right that this evidence is properly considered? Now, it might be, in fact, in fairness, you might want to consider a small sample of those videos to decide whether or not you can consider them. I have every confidence that this subcommittee will be able to look at a video and decide whether or not whether I'm being fair in relation to my assessment of the volume. But in addition to the commentary which our expert was able to say, to make a respect of the volume of the footage, he was able to use, to do some calculations as to an actual accurate reading of volume within inside the premises based on the science. And the science, as I've quoted in my submissions, is that if you have a collection of people being very loud, and very loud means very loud, not just boisterous and a bit cantankerous, if you have 5 people being very loud, that equates to nothing more than a quiet conversation 25 metres away through glass. But it doesn't take into consideration the fact that there's a massive retaining wall and then there's all the distance up there. So I think, with respect, Chair, before I can finish my submissions, I think the subcommittee needs to determine that issue, subject to any observations that your legal advisor has, because I need to know what I'm addressing you on. If the CCTV is not being considered, I don't need to address you.
We will see the CCTV back session after we do the presentations. Can I invite Jane Coxhead? Sorry about that. I keep reminding people to put their microphones on and I forgot to put mine on. Can I invite Jane Coxhead?
Hi, I'm Jane Coxhead. Oh, okay. Well, all I can say is I've been on board with 1014 for the last 2 years. We work very closely with charities in the local area, promoting 1014 and raising funds for them. We were prevalent in putting forward the action plan and working with the police to try and enforce this. I'm in the premises not only doing events, but also I'm there every Saturday evening, observing, DJing on the main floor, trying to observe and see how our security, how the street marshals, how everything's managed. And I believe that since the action plan's been put in place, things have definitely improved. I also believe that we are the leaders some way in the area above other bars in implementing security checks, and I think that some of this has been overlooked, and we're just focusing on the troublemakers that are not just in they're in the whole area, not just 1014. But like we've said earlier, Mr. Chair, that isn't what we're here to discuss today. It's 1014 that's being discussed.
Thank you, Jane.
Okay.
Can I invite Jamie Dawson?
Chair, can I just, I'm very sorry, but I wanted to make sure, I feel like I've been cut short. I hadn't finished addressing, and I
wouldn't want that.
well, of course, lawyers like the sound of their own voice, and I'm no exception. It wasn't clear to me if you were intending to hear from me again, and that is the reason why you've gone to other parties, or if the chair felt that I had finished.
I thought you had finished.
I hadn't, with respect, Chair. If I might return.
Please.
Thank you.
Can I, before you do, can I, I've just asked Jamie to
I'm Jamie. Sorry. I'm Jamie Dawson, the manager. I've not got much to say other than especially since the action plan has started, I feel like we are doing a much better job, maintaining sort of like an orderly manner inside and outside the building. I've taken more of a front role going outside the building after kick-out time and making sure that the bouncers are doing the job outside and, just assisting them with that. I think me having more personal approach with my customers because I've been serving them all night and I do have a good way of speaking to them and they do respect me and listen to me and tend to move on a lot quicker. So I do think since the action plan has started that we are making massive progress in what we are doing. And like I say, that should reflect in what you guys think today.
Thank you, Jamie. Can I bring you back?
Thank you, Chair. I'll make it uncharacteristically brief. I think you've heard a fair amount from me. Nigel recognises that things can always be better. That there are clearly concerns, and those concerns are important to Nigel because they matter to one of his neighbours, and he wants to be a good neighbour. We're disappointed that when this review was instigated and we reached out to West Yorkshire Police to see if we can have a meeting to discuss how improvements could make better, what might we be able to do moving forward, they turned that invitation down. So we haven't been able to have that meeting to be able to work towards a solution that is going to be beneficial to everyone. It's clear that West Yorkshire Police want to close the premises early because it makes their life easier for them. We haven't heard any evidence about what resources are being allocated to Homefirth, and if it is right, if they say that the concerns regarding this premises are as such that it's having a detrimental impact, there is no evidence other than that. There's no allocation of police resources there. There's nothing to suggest that the police are having to police that. And in fact, this subcommittee may very well be aware that Homefirth was benefiting from street marshals provided by the same company that Nigel uses to provide good quality security. And the decision has been taken to pull those street marshals away, potentially because maybe the powers that be decided that the issues weren't necessarily as bad as were being painted. Despite that, and recognising that things can always be better, we have thought very hard about what we can put forward as an alternative to what the police are asking you to do, and you'll have seen from my my submissions as to what those are, and I'll take you through those in very short order and why it is that we feel that they will be of benefit. We're suggesting that there would be a condition of no new customers into the premises after 1 a.m. on Saturday and Sunday mornings, effectively the late night Friday and late night Saturday customers. This would prevent any suggestion of people arriving at the premises late and waiting outside and causing a nuisance. Again, the hours after midnight seems to be the concern. We would put forward that, and in fact that's something that we have been doing in the interim, and we feel that it's been working very well. And we're not aware of any incidents of complaint since the review has been started, and that's something that we've been doing. And if we have no new customers after 1 o'clock, that would encourage any of those late night revellers to go to the other premises in Holmfirth, and that will distribute customers across the town rather than being at 10:14. So we believe that would have an impact on reducing the number of customers. Where the premises are open for licensable activities on after midnight on Fridays and Saturdays, so effectively early hours of Saturday and early hours of Sunday morning, in addition to the SIA that are on duty inside, we're proposing to have 2 placed outside, so that they can effectively help disperse customers. Now, as I say, we have very little responsibility for the behaviour of our customers when they leave the premises, but we can certainly intervene and advise customers to behave themselves. And troublemakers, if they continue to be troublemakers, will be banned. Because we don't want people coming to our premises and making Mr. Weaver's life a misery, because we'd love Mr. Weaver to be one of our customers. That's why we were proposing that. That is also an important step forward if you consider as well that the street marshals are being pulled. So the service which was being provided by the street marshals, we're proposing to effectively to provide that service. We're also offering to have a monthly residents meeting, and it may very well be that residents don't want to attend a meeting. They may prefer to make their feelings known during emails or telephone calls. But any concerns can be heard and acted upon immediately, as opposed to agreeing to an action plan which the police then don't discuss with us and then accuse us of breaching 3 months down the line. It's important to be proactive. It's important to know that we want to take this seriously. And we would hope that those measures that I'm suggesting in my submissions are a long way to achieving the licensing objectives. This subcommittee will be mindful of the fact that this is the first review of a premises with a very long trading history, without very much by way of supporting evidence in terms of the pool of complainants. In terms of balancing what is proportionate and what is right, I would invite you to say that this is proportionate and this is appropriate to promote the licensing objectives. And if these measures are put in place and found to be ineffective, we'll be back here and I will have a much harder time persuading you of an alternative. Thank you, Chair.
Chair, could I just add something towards Mr. Harvey's points there in point 2? I just wanted to point out that there's currently no condition on the licence that stipulates a need for door staff. It was included in the action plan that was done by West Yorkshire Police last year in conjunction with the premises. Therefore, to have any SIA door staff, it would be required to be added as a condition to the licence. Thank you.
If I could...
Yes, please, if that's okay. I just wanted to clarify a little bit of a point, if that's all right, about the reason for why Environmental Health haven't submitted a representation to this. So I can confirm that they are aware of the issues and they can see that there's a significant issue with the noise on the street. And they've said, however, unfortunately, under the Environmental Protection Act 1990, relating to noise on a street is not something that they can actually deal with effectively. If it was at the premises, they can do a little bit more, but they could see that it's from the customers from the premises. And they've also confirmed that the noise and the disturbance is actually linked to antisocial behaviour rather than being a specific noise complaint, you know, just somebody making too much noise, too much music coming out from the premises, that type of thing. And that's the reason why they haven't put a representation in. Apologies.
Sorry, how would that work, and who would actually monitor it?
So, Jamie Dawson. Obviously, our door staff do a great job of letting people in, not letting people in, you know, ID checking and stuff like that. Our back gates are very secure, so obviously no one can sneak in the premises. There is literally just one way in and out of that. Well, obviously, other than the fire exits, in and out for customers. So that will be obviously monitored by head door staff and alongside me as well, being there every single night. But yeah, like I say, we'll just make sure there's no one in the coming into the building after that time. I think that will reduce the number of people in the building, full stop, you know, and disperse the crowds of people to other venues as well at a later period in the night.
We've already put signs outside already saying no admittance after 1 a.m. And like I said, the door staff are on the door all the time, and just to really take that.
So you already started that?
They've already started that, obviously, after the review. Obviously, we've had the unfortunate, we thought the review, the action plan was working. We haven't been told anything other than that. Obviously, when we got this review, we've started acting on everything. We've already started not letting patrons in after 1 o'clock. We've got a sign outside, and we've already got door staff on the door doing all this for us already.
Thank you. Colleagues, have you any questions?
I just want to get an understanding between January and December. There's been 12 incidents, of which 8 were of assault, of which 2 were of inside of the establishment. The rest were likely to have been outside of the establishment.
Yeah, there weren't 8 assaults, there were 8 incidents where the police were called. Yeah, like you say, the ones we've highlighted were inside, but the majority of it is outside in the street. Yes, you'll get more of a feel when you watch the CCTV of what we're sort of saying about being out in the street and what the disorder is out in the street.
Yeah,
so, yeah.
Just to clarify, I wanted to get the facts of the recorded element. Then I wanted to possibly see the CCTV, but not mix the two.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. We move now to item 9. The applicant will be given the opportunity to respond to any points raised by the objectors.
I'm very grateful. Thank you, sir. Before I deal with the substantive nature of the complaints in reference, I should check with the legal advisor, and I think Mr. Harvey is interested in the answer as well. The closed-circuit television footage, it is my understanding that the panel will view the footage in a private session to ensure that any individuals who could have been identified through the CCTV camera, that those identities are not revealed in the public and that there is no more to the issue, and it wouldn't assist for me to address the panel on any other legalities that have been raised by Mr. Harvey. I just want to check that that's the position.
It will be seen in private session.
I'm most grateful. Then I won't take up the panel's time.
Have you any points that you'd like to question the objectors to the points I've actually spoken about, whether admittance or the hours, or you have no points to raise?
No, it should all be very clear from viewing the footage what exactly is PC Swift has described is the combination of patrons filtering out of the premises and their behaviors. And I'm grateful as well to Ms. Goldsmith for identifying that because the disturbance takes place on the outside, it's difficult then to calculate the noise factor. But this isn't just a specific individual noise complaint. It's about the behaviors of patrons on the outside. And I know a lot of weight has been placed on the fact that this has come from one complainant and one single complaint. But this isn't the making of a resident who has a vengeance against 1014. A lot of recognition is placed to the importance the bar has to the community, but the closed-circuit television footage that has been obtained by Mr. Weaver stands on its own and will shed light in a very important and significant way. And perhaps if that is viewed, then matters can progress from there. Otherwise, I fear we may just be going back in circles. I can't assist any further than simply invite the panel to consider that footage.
Can I just ask you,
yes, sir.
Before I bring in police lady, about Mr. Harvey's put great weight on the legality of the CCTV. In your opinion, well, I'd like your opinion about the legality of the same.
And I'm very happy to assist with that. So perhaps to make that as easy as possible, let's turn to Mr. Harvey's submissions at paragraphs 6, page 3. Paragraph 16, my apologies, page 3. The way to consider this matter, I would say, is that first, the placement of a closed-circuit television footage, if indeed there is an issue with it, then it is for the respondent, Mr. Turner, to take up with the Information Commissioner's Office. This panel isn't a statutory body that is empowered by legislation to consider the legality of how those cameras are placed. That's number one. Number two, reference is made to the Regulation of Investigatory Powers Act 2000, and that it hadn't been obtained lawfully by the police. So there are two separate issues here. First, the placement of the camera and whether that's a problem, and second, how the evidence was obtained by the police. I've dealt with the first matter in terms of the way in which that evidence has been obtained. This specific piece of legislation that's been quoted deals with covert surveillance. That means typically when police undertake or when their authorities undertaking undercover surveillance. The panel will certainly take the view that a CCTV camera placed for the security of one's home premises doesn't fit into that category. And certainly there's nothing covert about where the cameras are. You can see the cameras from the outside of the property, and indeed Mr. Harvey confirms the same. So this suggestion that this is covert and therefore should not be relied upon is a mischaracterization of what we see. The third response to that is that there is a reference to infringing the Article 8 of the European Convention on Human Rights, so one's privacy. The proposal by the local council is the best way forward. You have a private session to view that footage, so any person's identities that can be made out from the footage does not get revealed to anyone else. The parties can be present in these chambers to view that footage together so that comments can be made about it in due course. But certainly the legality of the CCTV is what I would describe as an entirely irrelevant issue in this before this panel. This panel isn't a statutory body to determine that lawfulness. And when it comes to considering evidence, the Licensing Act 2003, Section 52, subsection 3, invites the panel to consider relevant representations. So in your minds, in the minds of the panel, if the closed-circuit television footage is relevant, and indeed the applicant would say it is, then that is for you to consider. This is not even a criminal court where police officers have to be bound in the same way to the criminal evidence provisions. That isn't what we're dealing with today. We're simply looking at whether or not there is a disturbance from the public, and if it shows as much, then it can be considered. It's no more complicated than that, is my view.
And thank you very much. PC Swift indicated that she wanted to speak.
Yeah, there's just a couple of issues I wanted to cover. It isn't just one person that's complaining. There are other people who would like to come forward, but for various reasons haven't. And also, it was in fact the neighbourhood policing inspector that instructed me to bring this review hearing. Obviously, I had concerns and with the Section 18 wounding, but it was her that contacted me and asked me to bring this hearing because she had concerns regarding the incidents at 10:14. And then just to ask regarding how the 2 extra SIA door staff would work. I mean, you haven't got any conditions at the moment, so I'm presuming that would be 2 in addition to the 3 you currently use. So 5 in total, and if that's the case, 2 on the door, 1 on the back door, 2 on the street. Is that how it's going to work?
The proposal, Chair, is the fact that there are no conditions on the licence requiring us to have CCTV is testaments to the age of the licence. The premises currently has 2 SIA.
Yeah, 3.
3. The proposal is that there will be 4. Obviously, if there is a need, because we know that the premises is going to be particularly busy on any particular occasion on a risk-assessed basis, then of course there will be additional security as necessary. But if you consider the ratio as to what is normally best practice, I think it's one security for every 100. We're well over that if we have 4.
We will move into private session and have a look at the CCTV.
Chair, sorry, can I just add to what Mr Harvey was saying about the licence being really old? The last time it was varied was in 30th of January 2019.
Sorry, what was the question, sorry?
When the licence was last varied, it was the 30th of January 2019.
But obviously, in terms of any conditions, if I was to apply for a new premises licence, I would be putting conditions on. If I was applying for a justice's licence in the 70s, that wouldn't be on there.
Is that okay? Would you like to come back?
The conditions were made in 2012 when it was Y-bar for what's on the current licence.
Right. So that needs a review as well, doesn't it? Thank you. We will now go into private session. Is there anyone that's not real interested in this application today?
Good night.
No? No? We are now live, so I will invite both applicants and objectors to sum up. So, applicants and objectors.
Thank you, sir. The way I propose to sum up my final observations in support of this application would be to provide a route to help you with your decision making. If we begin first, very briefly, and only very briefly, with the reliance that you can place on the footage that you have observed, what I would say to that is, this is a licensing panel. You're not bound by the same rules of evidence as a criminal court would. Mr. Harvey makes reference to this panel being bound by the principles of natural justice. I agree entirely. However, the principles of natural justice have to do with the process of a hearing, meaning that all parties are heard, that they have before them have seen the evidence that any one party is relying upon. And that has been discharged satisfactorily. It isn't a question here. The second point to be made under this heading is with regards to the noise. I agree entirely that a noise expert has not conducted the relevant assessments, but you have before you a very convincing explanation for why that was not realistic from Ms. Goldsmith, that this was in an external area rather than within a controlled environment. And so you would be invited to apply your own perspective from the CCTV footage. Now, I don't invite you to conclude that any decision you make today on the license conditions ought to be based solely on the noise. Let's take it at the highest, and I put aside for a moment the noise concerns. What you have seen on the closed-circuit television footage are a number of clips which include directly a camera that shows 1014, and you've seen incidents outside of those premises, fights, you've seen large crowds being dispersed from those premises. The distance of where these specific incidents take place, whether it's 100 meters or 50 or 20, in my submission is neither here nor there, because by a process of elimination on that road, as has been confirmed earlier, there was an Italian restaurant and an Indian restaurant further up from 1014. Now, those premises had closed. What you have is then two premises from which you can conclude that there will be patrons, 1014 and the shoulder of mutton. Now, whenever we've seen footage from the shoulder of mutton, you've seen people coming out in a calm manner. Yes, they would have added to that crowd, but the instances when you've seen the assaults on more than one occasion happen in close proximity to 1014. That is where, when we look at the license objectives, there is a clear breach. And those objectives are to prevent crime and disorder, to improve public safety, and to prevent public nuisance. So it isn't just decided upon noise on a singular basis, it's a combination of things that you can see, and you're invited to apply your real life experience taken together with your common sense. When we see the footage, what we see is a clear breach of these objectives. And you can simply decide that on whether it's more likely than not. We would say it was more likely that these patrons were from 1014 and that they were acting in a way having been inebriated for many hours. So how does the application solve the problem? And this is the final thing I will say. When you reduce the licensing hours and you bring it down to 11 p.m. for last orders, 12 a.m. to be shut, that means that if there is any crowd that is created on the exterior of the premises, those people will begin to dissipate a lot sooner than they would have currently, where they only leave or the area only begins to clear out after 3 a.m. So it's about reducing the number of unsociable hours in which you see such behaviors. So it happens a lot sooner. People begin to leave a lot sooner. And the benefit of that is that if you're no longer serving alcohol for as many hours, people are less likely to be as intoxicated as they might be when they can drink for an extra 2 or 3 hours into the early hours of the morning. That's an inference I invite you to draw when people can attend premises. I'm not saying that the evidence is as such. It's something you can conclude when you look at how the nighttime economy operates. Those are the representations I make on behalf of the applicant, unless I can assist the panel or the legal advisor on any specific matters.
Will assist you in your deliberations. Mr. Sachdev stated that as far as the distance, whether it's 100 metres or 50 metres or less, may not be relevant. The revised guidance, which is issued, paragraph 2.27,
yes,
states now, I'll read this out, beyond the immediate area surrounding the premises, these are matters for the personal responsibility of individuals under the law. An individual who engages in antisocial behaviour is accountable in their own right. Would you be able to just address that point in relation to the distance which you indicated, sir, wasn't really relevant?
Yes, thank you for that. What I would say is the specific calculation mathematically is what I meant to be less relevant. The wording and the guidance is within the immediate vicinity of those premises. Now, at that time of night, within the immediate vicinity, you have these patrons from one location filtering out, and then they are the most proximate to the premises. So the guidance doesn't stipulate it's 100 meters or less or 200 meters or less. It's within that immediate vicinity, and these are the people that are closest to the bar at 10:14. It may be suggested that those patrons could have been from the shoulder of mutton, but when you've seen the footage yourselves, you've seen more often than not, more likely than not, these are patrons from 10:14 that have been behaving in the ways that have been described.
Thank you.
I'm most grateful. Thank you.
Thank you. You've concluded. Your opportunity, Mr. Harvey, to sum up.
Thank you, Chair. I'm very pleased that my friend for the police has invited you to use your common sense and your experience, because I'm going to do the same. Because your common sense and experience will tell you that bars and clubs have problems. The police will not be able to show you a bar or club that does not have problems. Holmfirth is a very popular destination for people to come to, and it therefore stands to reason that there might be, it's an unfortunate fact of life, that there might be an increase in those problems. A member of this subcommittee has already made the point that there were not, over the course of 12 months, there were not actually that many incidents, and only a very small number of those incidents took place inside our premises, the premises where we are responsible for the behaviour of patrons and people's behaviour. If a premises only has that number of incidents over a 1-year period, your common sense might tell you that they are probably doing quite well. And if the suggestion is that this premises is ran so badly that there are riots and affrays out there pretty much every night, you would expect to see two other pieces of evidence. Your common sense would tell you this. You would expect to see more complaints from more residents whose lives are being made a misery by this, and you would expect to see the police on every single CCTV footage, because they know that every single time this place is open, there's going to be a problem, so we better have people there ready. That's what your common sense would tell you. They are not. And the reason why they are not, we would suggest, is because, in fact, what we are facing are the problems which are not unique to any premises which opens late at night. And especially when you consider that the history of the premises and how long it has been there and how long it has traded as a late night premises, all the more reason for your common sense to tell you that there is a better alternative than to revoking the licence, which is effectively what the police are asking you to do, because a late night bar without a late licence is not a bar. So, again, using your common sense and experience, the police have suggested that we are effectively responsible, because they've provided footage in their commentary, that we are responsible for every incident of disorder. It's an inconvenient truth that the neighbouring premises, in contravention of their licence, has been continuing to open. I don't know why the police have decided to single us out when they should be taking action against the neighbouring premises, but they haven't. They have offered to you as evidence of our failure to promote the licensing objectives CCTV of two men having a scrap 25-50 metres away at the bottom of South Lane. There's no evidence that they have come from our premises, and my friend says that it's the logical conclusion. Well, that ignores the fact that you've got a neighbouring premises that seems to be doing what they want. You have other evidence showing somebody running from in the opposite direction, running and belting people who have been in our premises. Again, how are we expected to be responsible for that? And that is something that your guidance tells you, and quite frankly, your common sense tells you, that we can only have a degree of responsibility to promote the licensing objectives within our scope of control. So how can we deal with that? Yes, there have been problems. All premises have problems. And it's how those problems are dealt with, which is the real litmus test. And again, Chair, my submission to you is that rather than curtailing our licensing hours until 11 o'clock, which amounts to a revocation, which is wholly disproportionate to the problems, let's put something else there in place. This is an old licence which hasn't been properly considered for a long time, and conditions can be added to this licence which will make sure that things are being dealt with properly and dealt with better. And the conditions that we are putting forward will do exactly that. 2 security staff, not street marshals. In fact, it's interesting. One of the evidence, one of the footage that the police rely on as evidence of our failure to control is actually, you can see they've got street marshals written all over them. They're not our people. They're not within our scope of control. It's the street marshals' failure to control. When we have staff, we would say that they do exercise that control. So having 2 security staff under our control, who answer to us, outside between 1 a.m. and 3 a.m., as far as we would submit, would meet the concerns which are being raised regarding people's behaviour, people's congregation. You haven't heard about our slow release policy, and that whilst the licensable activities cease at 2 o'clock, people are encouraged to remain in the premises for as long as possible, released in dribs and drabs, so 5 or 6 people at a time, encouraged down the road in the direction of public transport and away. This is something which we've put in place. Unfortunately, the police weren't willing to meet with us and talk about these issues to see whether that would go some way, but this is something that we've put in place and we can see that it's working. When the action plan was put into place, these measures were working. Not many of these incidents that your attention has been drawn to are post-action plan. So, councillors, with respect, we can put forward and have put forward some sensible suggestions which deal with the issues. They are appropriate and they are proportionate. And that is what is, with respect, your test. What is appropriate and what is proportionate to promote the licensing objectives. Having no new customers after 1 o'clock will do that. Having 2 security staff outside between 1 and 3 a.m. will do that. You might wish to stipulate a condition in relation to security inside, because that's not currently stipulated. That's a matter for your discretion. And regular meetings, meaningful meetings, where concerns can be raised regularly, as opposed to 3, 4, 5 months of radio silence and then being slacked with a review. Meaningful residential meetings and contact will make sure that the issues are dealt with very quickly and shut down. Because, as I say, and it's not throwaway comments, there is a significant investment gone into this premises because we want it to be somewhere nice and safe for our customers. Mr. Weaver would be a very welcome customer, and we would want him to feel that he can have a say, a meaningful say, in how the business is a good neighbour. It is a good neighbour. You've seen and heard about the charity work that the premises done. You've seen and heard about the type of people who it employs and the positive contribution it makes to the local society. A contribution which doesn't seem to be being made by some of the other premises in the town who have escaped scrutiny for whatever reason. It seems to be only us that is being scrutinised. This is the first review of the premises licence, and I'm confident it will be the last review of the premises licence. Because if you accede to my invitation and add these conditions on, or any other conditions which you feel are necessary, without curtailing the licence, you can have every confidence that this is not going to be a problem going forward. To do as the police have requested is the nuclear option. You know, if you don't want to have any problems with licensed premises, shut them all down. That seems to be what the police are inviting you to do. Let's use that common sense and that experience and say, let's try something else first. And if it doesn't work, we'll be back here very quickly. Thank you very much. Can I assist you any further? Thank you.
record. Oh, I better put it's on. We have come to a decision, and I will read it out. At today's hearing, the panel considered both verbally and in writing information which outlined an application for a review under S51 of the Licensing Act 2003 in respect of premises known as 1014 Bar, Dumford Road, Holmfirth, HD9, 2DP. In reaching this decision, the panel has due regard to the provisions of the Licensing Act 2003, the statutory guidance issued under Section 182 of the Act, the Council's Statement of Licensing Policy, and the relevant provision of the Human Rights Act. In relation to the legality of the CCTV and Article 8 and the right to privacy, the panel, having heard representations from both parties on the issue, determined that it is not for them to determine whether the CCTV obtained by the witness was lawful or not. It is a matter for the ICO to determine on the full facts of evidence. The panel concluded that it's relevant evidence that the matter in issue, namely crime and disorder, public safety and prevention of public nuisance. In addition, the panel have concluded that there is no prejudice to any party and the CCTV was served on the licence holder and he was given the opportunity to make representations. The panel also considered the representations received in respect of the following licensing objectives: public safety, prevention of crime and disorder, and prevention of public nuisance. Therefore, in respect of the aforementioned application, the panel has decided to modify the conditions of the premises licence to include the following: no new customers to be admitted to the premises after 1 o'clock, a slow release policy to manage the flow of people leaving the premises, two security staff members to be present on the outside of the premises between 1 and 3, in addition to other street marshals, CCTV coverage to cover all aspects of the outside of the premises and for it to be made available to any responsible authority upon request. The reasons for the panel decision are: adding the conditions will promote the licensing objectives in respect of the aforementioned public safety, prevention of crime and disorder, and prevention of public nuisance. The panel believes that these conditions are appropriate and proportionate. I think that concludes that section.
I do apologise. Can I just clarify, the condition would be that no new customers to enter
The premises after 1 o'clock.
after 1 a.m.
Yes. Yes. I've got to tell you this will be you will be written to, so you'll have received the parcel piece of paper I've just written out in writing as soon as possible. And that concludes.
Chair, might I clarify the condition? I think it will be much clearer when it's in writing, but in relation to the SIA outside, were you stipulating the days upon which that would take place? I didn't catch a note of that in your...
The days?
The days that will apply.
Oh, the 1 o'clock?
Yes, yes.
It's at the Friday and Saturday.
Thank you.
The SIA door staff, it said 2 SIA officers on the outside. Is that in total 2 officers, or is there a requirement for 1 at the back? And then street marshals, is there a number for that as well?
Your opposite number did state there will be 4. So but I'd rather than dictate where they are now, but I presume there will be 2 up front, 1 in
So
back.
4 in total?
So there'll be 3 outside, basically. I think that covers everything. Thank you. And thank you very much for your attendance. Meeting closed. Thank you.